Well, looks like it's my turn to ruin your lunch, your power lunch. Sean Surerus with Surerus Pipeline and Peace River region, born and bred. My father started our business 50 years ago in 1969 in Fort St. John, but he started his Western adventure here in Chetwynd. I have an uncle, Lou, and cousins, Shane and Kim, and cousins that live here in Chetwynd, and they, we have a large family. My grandmother's turning 101 next month in Grand Prairie. She's just moved from the first time from her farm in Ontario to kind of finish up with their eldest daughter here. So it's pretty, really strong heritage in the north. So I just want to say thanks for inviting, our business to speak, and I got the tap on the shoulder to come and speak to everyone today. So, been to Chetwynd hundreds of times in my life, and Moberly Lake, my first vacation was at Moberly Lake as a little guy. So it's wasn't minus 38 or whatever it was this morning when I went, but pretty great legacy, and I'm excited to be here today. So we're gonna do a couple things. One, we have a big sound system to throw together, but we'll do that at the back end. But we're just gonna do a presentation a bit on our business and about Coastal GasLink pipeline for TC Energy, and of course talk a bit about what's going on and what we're up to in Chetwynd, right? And we're chamber members here. We've only been working full time out of this community for like 4 straight years, and we joined last year. So, we're part of what we're delivering here, and I think we've made an impact in the community as well, and hopefully for the good. And feedback later when in behind closed doors, you can talk about if there are challenges, right? So we need to hear that, and we need to give you the opportunity to share with us if you're having some issues with our business. But, we'll kind of run on a little bit and talk about, introduce myself. So I'm obviously Sean Surerus. I'm president of our business, and my dad's kind of moving towards retirement when he's about 90. So I've got about 27 more years of working under him. But we're part of that growth and transition. But with us today, we have some folks from our project. So we have Alan Atkinson, who's our project director. He's based here in Chetwynd and will be here, your neighbor, for the next couple years. We have Leah Babstock. She's in the back, and she's looking after our HR and part of our Indigenous coordination. And so it's about hiring and getting people on our projects. And then we have a whole slew of folks in various yards here in Chetwynd supporting the jobs. And then from TC, we have Heather, oh my God, Sarah. And Sarah. We just hugged each other, and I know. And they're with the community group with TransCanada. And so I'll have Heather come up in a bit to introduce a video. So I'll show a video at the very end, and it's about the extraordinary legacy that's being kind of the caption or the tag for the business, for the CGL business, which is a part of the TransCanada family, or TC Energy now. So you can't have Canada when you're working in the States, I guess. So here we are. We'll talk a bit about us, our business, Coastal GasLink, a bit about our people and contracting, and then what we're doing in the community as well. And that's the stuff that's pretty interesting. We've done a good job of finding things to partner with and participate and promote and share some funds with and volunteer some time as well. So I guess who we are, right, is coming up after right now. My slide, I've got 2 slides going for some reason. But realistically, the Surerus business, I talked a little bit about that. 50 years ago, my dad started with a pickup truck, and he traded in on a dump truck and started contracting on his own as a young guy, just 21, 22 years old. And started a business in Fort St. John that's really developed to being possibly the largest pipeline contractor in Canada. And with the joint venture, buttressing that as being the largest pipeline contractor, period, doing the biggest projects and hiring tons of people and spending lots of money and doing great work. But we can't do that without our partner from the UK. So this is J. Murphy and Sons, and Alan's joined us from that business to be the project director. And we have an integrated joint venture that's been operating for about 5 years. And it came together when, about 6 years ago, everyone was coming to Canada to look after the biggest set of pipeline, a real explosion in LNG, and Energy East was part of that, and Northern Gateway, and there were pipelines everywhere and LNG projects everywhere. And so we were approached as a potential candidate. We have a huge fleet of equipment. We're based in BC. We have lots of people work for us. We have construction management, and we're already doing that type of work. And so we were really, it's kind of interesting how your mindset changes, but we were a self-delivery business where we would do much of the work on our own. We'd do as much as possible. We didn't need partners. And then we saw the biggest contractors on the planet coming to Canada and looking to partner. And then you start thinking, well, why would anyone do that? They could do it. They could fund these projects themselves. They could do the work themselves, but why would they partner? And once we started getting weakened to the idea that a partnership made sense, then you realize that the biggest companies are doing partnered agreements. They're de-risking themselves. And once we got that in through our heads that we were going to be better with a partner, we actually, J. Murphy & Sons came in and it was a right fit. So we were approached by companies from Italy and Spain and the US and all over the place, South America. But culturally, the best fit was with J. Murphy & Sons. And so that's where Surerus Murphy kind of developed out of 5 years ago. So we're in our 5th year, moving to 6, with this integrated joint venture where we've delivered a whole bunch of projects. And now we've secured some really big projects. So we've secured Coastal GasLink, which we're delivering right now, just in your backyard. And then Trans Mountain, I call it the People's Pipeline, that we'll start sometime in the first quarter of this year in Kamloops. So we have a big section of that. So you think of that when the joint venture was founded, there were 26 major projects, and it's whittled down to 3, with Keystone being the 3rd of those. And we've picked up 2 of those 3 projects. So the goal of our business was to secure large work, and that's what we've done. And now we're able to bring people on, and we'll talk a bit about how many folks will be on this Coastal GasLink pipeline. But if we look at what we've done in Chetwynd alone, we've filled the community with workers. That makes there are challenges with that, and we recognize that. But our goal is to be a good partner in the community and a good neighbor. So this is how it came about. And now we have a very strong business and a compelling business for our clients to hire and deliver their work. And of course, this is interactive, and I have some questions for everyone, so you have to remember what I'm talking about. We have some folks on the team, and I introduced Alan as a project director, but we have people that really support individuals and the contracting. We have a whole procurement team, and we have all kinds of stuff, but I just have a couple names here. These are people that really are about the local community and then the local Indigenous communities and supporting the relationships. And we look at when we're coming into a community and we're working with Soto or West Moberly or Doig or whomever in Treaty 8 in particular, where we're quite familiar, we're kind of like holding on to a relationship for a period of time for the proponent. So in this case, TC Energy. And we think we do a good job of that, and we put a lot of effort and time into that. So certainly people from Chetwynd in the local community stop in our office. Leah handles that, and we bring people on board. And we'll talk a bit about what the chamber is about, which is the local businesses, and we have some information on that as well. Talk a bit about the project itself. So who here has heard of Coastal GasLink Pipeline? Everyone, right? Like, it's famous. We're up here in Chetwynd, and we're responsible for delivering about 140 kilometers of this project. So a 48-inch pipe, it's very big, it's very heavy. We're soon to see, and maybe Alan, I'll even get him to say a couple things about what's coming up, but we're soon to see a lot of pipe showing up here in Chetwynd. It's already coming by rail, and that's being marshaled all over the place, and then up the Sekunka Forest Service Road. So 140 kilometers is our section, and then there are 3 other joint venture contractors, all a Canadian partner, generally with an international partner, delivering the other work scope. So we have about a quarter of this 670 kilometer pipeline, and it's at the moment the budget publicly known as $6.6 billion. So that's a big pipeline. That's not just going to contractors. If it did, that'd be great. But that's buying the pipe. It's doing the engineering. It's compensating landowners. It's performing road repairs. It's building block valves. It's doing all kinds of things. So that money is split amongst a whole bunch of services, of which the construction piece is the biggest component, but it's not even more than 50% of that project. So we're delivering 1 and 2, and we're going to be your neighbors for a while, probably through to sometime in 2022. So we're going to be here hanging out with you in and around the community. And of course, what this does, it fuels all kinds of other work that will be following on and supporting this Northeast BC economy. So I know we've all had some challenges with the depression in energy. Chetwynd feels it. I think you had a lot of contractors here during that part of that downturn, but local contractors are affected by that. And the type of work we've done has kind of somewhat insulated us from the bigger challenges of the economy. So we've been in a fortunate position to benefit from large projects, which have been, they take years and years to commit to and to fund. And once the final investment decision is made, they're going, right? They're very rarely will you see a major project back away. So here we are, supporting the funnel essentially of gas from Northeast BC out to Kitimat, which has a $30+ billion spend on the LNG Canada facility. So very, very large investment in our province. I would have shown a video if I'd had the sound sorted out, but we'll show it at the very end if we can figure out how to do it. And it's from TransCanada, the TC Energy video about the project. And we're all familiar with the terrain up here in the Northeast, but when we see what's on the coast, it's quite incredible where this pipeline is going. You may wonder, why didn't they just stop it somewhere else and give up? Because it is really tough work. But anyway, you have to get it to the end for it to work effectively. Where we are here is just kind of some of the highlights of our project. So again, we've just kind of focused on what we're up to. We started construction this spring, doing the clearing works, and those clearing contracting phases they're called novated contracts. So TransCanada already had agreed on those contracts, and they're all local Indigenous service providers with partners. So they're all from the Northeast, and pretty much all of their subs are from the Northeast as well. So that was the main scope for this year. For 2019, it was really about clearing and doing some grade and earthworks. And all the contractors are kind of in the same boat. We were the second contractor to really get going. The stuff on the coast, Spread 8 they call it, was the first to start developing their project, and we were the second in. So we've been here, I was at a progress meeting this morning. It's weekly meeting 42, so 42 weeks of us having these sessions. So that, that's much of the year, and we're going to be here, a couple more years on top of that. So we do anticipate finishing some point in 2022. We have a lot of clearing completed, so we're probably around 50% of the clearing done at the moment, maybe 55%, which we'll work through the winter until we can no longer accomplish the task we need. And there's some areas where we can't work, and then we'll continue that through next summer. And then really when we talk about what we do as a pipeline contractor, it's really that's where we're taking that 40-inch pipe, putting it on the ground after the grade's done, welding it, trenching, putting it in the ground, burying, all those things that are part of the public discourse right now in Canada, the pipeline conundrum that people seem to have. So those will continue. So primarily summer work over the next couple of years, and then in the third year of construction, that's when we get our final tie-ins, test the pipe, and ideally all the contractors are done at roughly the same time, and then that pipe is ready for whenever LNG Canada's export capacity is ready to go. So that's kind of how it works. So there's a lot of effort, and you can imagine as this project develops, how many people are directly employed by it, but also indirectly. And this is in the tens of thousands on the pipeline by the time it's, you get that plume of support, right? And, we're in the midst of that right now. So one of the things I spoke to is why we're probably not working in the winters. We have some, extreme slopes. So pipeline contractors last 40 years, kind of since the initial West Coast main line that was put in the 50s running south to Vancouver, there hasn't been a lot of work in really mountainous terrain. And right now we're seeing contractors having to come up against work that they haven't experienced. We've worked up in this region in the Northeast, in the Grizzly Valley and around Chetwynd, and you probably saw us up the highway a little bit going up this mountain 2 years ago. So we've had a bit more of our feet touching this challenging terrain, which is one of the reasons we've been selected to do this work. But all these contractors are kind of relearning what it means to work in steep slopes. There's a lot of effort on this, keeping people safe on our projects, being of paramount importance. And these slopes are really the things that are kind of limit some of the work we have. So we've got a bunch of avalanche zones, and that's something like, quite honestly, I've been working for our business about 20 years. Never have we had an avalanche to worry about, but here we are just outside of Chetwynd, and we are taking those precautions. We don't work in certain areas. We have avalanche experts on our project. Like all kinds of things you wouldn't think a pipeline contractor would ever have are on our jobs. So, that's some of the work we won't be doing this winter, stuff that can't be done safely. Obviously, lots of wildlife zones. And when you look at our schedules, we have windows of time where you can't work, and you kind of start layering these things and you go, when can you work? Because there's always something going on. But we have to work around these restrictions, whether it's caribou, grizzly habitat, western toads, whatever it could be. There are lots of restrictions on this spread alone. And then as we move to the coast on this project, there's a lot more with respect to the salmon, the rivers that are running salmon, right? So that's even another layer on top. And we hit some of that on this project. But certainly there are a lot of restrictions, and it's done for the right reasons, but it does make it challenging for a contractor to pick a path that makes sense and you can run in a linear manner. So we have an incredible amount of effort goes into the technical support and delivery of our projects. And if you look at how many people we have on our job right now, roughly half are just supporting the actual future development of the work. So the people who are doing the work, half of the people are doing it and half of them are planning. And then we have all our subs on top of that. So right now, I think we're at 140-ish people on site, plus almost a similar number of subcontractors working on our project. And I spoke a bit about water crossings. Again, lots of these are drilled. We don't do as much open cut work as they would have done in the past. So there's lots of drilling on this. I think there are 196 crossings of water bodies, whether they're a river or a small stream, but we have to handle them all within the prescriptions of our environmental protection plan. And then of course we're assessed on that. And even today we have the Environmental Assessment Office visiting our site and the Oil and Gas Commission. And in 2 weeks we have the Canadian Energy, not this project, another project, we have the Canadian Energy Regulator. Lots of people have come to visit us to make sure that we're doing what we said, to make sure that we're applying what they've committed to the regulators. And that's when you think about what we hear in the media right now, a lot of it comes out of what's not going well on projects. A lot of it's very much focused on some issues that are in the past, they wouldn't have been issues in our sector. But what it's doing is elevating and raising the bar for everyone. And that's a good thing. It's a challenge for our workers to get it, to understand what it means. Why are we doing something that last year we could do, this year we can't? 5 years ago we didn't do this. Well, guess what? 20 years ago people hardly wore hard hats, right? And 35 years ago people didn't have safety boots the way we do. So all these things are part of an evolution, and we're part of very much a fast curve in the environmental and community space right now. Talk a bit about people. So lots of people. We're going to have, and I'll show a chart here, we peak at around 900 people on our spread alone next year. And they have to stay somewhere, and I'll go into a bit of where they stay. But that's a ton of folks from Northeast BC, but also from across the country that come to work for us. And of course we have a small contingent that joined us from Ireland and the UK. And these people are the ones that are driving this project. And you can think of a big change for our business would be we used to do work that took 4 or 5 months. Big project took 5 months. And now we're on jobs that, with this North Montney mainline that we had a lot of people here for over the last year, 16 months of work, right? And this one is 30 months or 35 months of work. So we have to have people who are really, how are they going to commit to this work and have a family, and how do we support some rotation, and how do we get the culture of pipeline, which is, if you're not there, you're not part of our team. How do we impact that? And that's something that's a challenge we're working on. And we're only on the early days of Coastal, but at some point people are going to hey, I haven't seen my kids for a year, right? They're graduating and I saw them 4 years ago. And it's not quite like that, but it's tough on families, right? And what we do, and we recognize that, and we try to offer some balance. And one of the things we've done on this project, because of the duration, is really committing to the long weekends to allow people to go home. Like, you can make a plan, put it in the bank that we're going to do something to allow for people to get home. So this is something that's different from the 100 days of construction that we were used to having from January the 2nd to sometime in April. And then where we're staying, we're at a number of camps. It's a 140-kilometer pipeline. So we'll be out at Sunset Prairie, the Sunset Prairie Camp. We're here in Chetwynd, lots of people here right now. We'll be at the Sekunka Camp, which was just opened in November, and we had our grand opening, and appreciate some of us got filmed there as well. And then the Headwall Camp, which is at the far south of our project, way out here, and it is where the toughest work is, and we're not even working out there yet, so we'll put a camp in next year, correct? Or this year, sorry. And so anyway, there's lots of folks going to be housed all over the place, and you can't house someone on the north end of the project and have them work in the south end. So all these people will be kind of transitioning from point to point as their work scopes move forward. Oh, I went a bit too far somehow. This one there. So this kind of shows, this is what we're up against when we think of seasons of construction and people. Like this is where, someone like Leah's got a whole whack of folks that come to work, and some are new to our business. Lots are repeating their work. Here we are, over 900 people, and this is in, I think this August of next year. And this is the peak loading of where our people are, but this kind of shows where they're staying. So this is the Headwall camp. We'll have roughly 150 people in it. This is the Kunka camp, up to 450 people in it. Here in Chetwynd, we're anticipating Chetwynd and the local camps, around 400 people in it next summer. And then the Sunset camp, again, we'll have around the same. So we've got, that's a lot of people that we're hiring, that we're employing, that are going to be coming to our community. And the community of Chetwynd in particular is where we provide living allowance, and they are spending money here. And I know Chetwynd's had a lot of pipeliners in town for the last few years. And again, we'd like some feedback on what you're feeling from that. We do have some conversations, but we don't have enough.
You're not spending enough money.
Good. I'm glad you got my slide where we don't spend enough money here. So, but this is where we are. And if you think of this as one project on Coastal GasLink, where there are 4 contractors roughly working to this extent, you start looking at how this stacks. And then you think of, there's another big pipeline of Trans Mountain that's similar to this, and we're part of it, and 2 of the other contractors are part of that. So then let's double some of these numbers. And then you think of all the other work that's going on, and all the pipeline people that should be employed, for the next couple of years. There are, tens of thousands of people going to be directly hired by pipeline contractors. In our business, we anticipate between 1,800 and 2,000 people working for Surerus Murphy joint venture this summer now coming. So that's a lot of people, to pay every week, and to make sure the timesheets are accurate, and to make sure that they're onboarded properly, and to make sure that they have the right gloves and all that stuff. So logistically, it's a big deal. And my dad started with a pickup truck, right? And here we are running thousands of people through our payroll. Took 50 years though, so but it's quite incredible, and that's where we are right now. So I thought I'd share this because this is interesting. So what it also means, you can expect a lot of people here in the community through the end of next year, essentially. End of this year, I guess this year is 2020 now, isn't it? We'll speak a bit about kind of the local impact, right? And I had all kinds of words in here, and I thought, I'm just going to speak to it because, that's where you're here to listen, not to read, right? But the local impact, and we'll talk a bit about corporate giving in a second, but, Indigenous local participation. So this is a plan. We actually go through and build out how we're going to deliver opportunity. And this is something that is a commitment to our client of TC Energy. It's a commitment to the regulator, so it's something that goes all the way through to the authorities, right? And it's not that they measure us on it, because we don't put prescriptive measures in there, but we talk about how we do things. How do we get people to enter our business? How do we track who's in our business? How do we ensure that if we're providing opportunity that's known, how do we get close to qualified people working for us? And all of these things are part of, basically the social DNA of our business, but the social license for all the contractors. So we're all in the same boat with respect to making sure that we're properly partnering with the communities and the local First Nation. And as we would be aware in the media, there's a lot of, learnings going on in our industry with respect to how to work effectively with our community partners. And you can't forget that, we have stakeholders and rights holders, and that's a part of the dilemma, that the challenges in our environment and project environment, right? What does it mean? What does consent mean? What does what does a site visit mean? What does someone who's not in favor of a project look like, or how does that feel? And that's up, the courts are going to figure that out over the next 15 years, but right now we're living through that. And as a contractor, we have to be very aware. And you think of the challenges on Coastal GasLink that are in the media right now, well, they'll amplify on Trans Mountain, which is to some widely unpopular. And so we have to be prepared to that. And our people, those 2,000 people working for us, have to be prepared to handle challenging conversations if those occur, or what does it mean when someone's saying, no, you can't pass here. So we have to have a respectful workplace. And part of our plan here, our Indigenous Local Participation Plan, is really helping us set up how we hire, bring people on, but also how do we effectively train people and keep them prepared for our work. We'll talk a bit about procurement because that's of interest, and I have, Leah gave me some numbers. We've spent, since the start of this project, about $4.8 million on local service providers. So, we have a huge project. We've just started it. We're at the early infancy, but already we've spent that. That's directly from the joint venture check to a contractor. On top of that, we've got, hundreds of people with LOA spending money in town. And we don't measure that as well, but we do know that there's a plume that comes from our spending. An individual staying in town spends money in town. And they spend money elsewhere and they keep some of it. But of course, at the end of the day, people staying in town deliver to the local service providers, right? But we do also, when we look at the procurement piece, we have a number of aspects of pre-qualification. We have large contracts, we have kind of mid-sized contracts, we have service contracts, and we have huge effort on trying to make sure that they're local to our project. And we have numbers on the whole Peace region, the other communities, Fort St. John and Dawson Creek and Hudson's Hope, and each community has numbers of businesses working directly on Coastal GasLink. And I'm not even talking about North Montney, which we just did, or High Pine, and we start adding these things and layering them. The number of the value spent directly in Chetwynd on Chetwynd business would be over $20 million in the last 3 years from our business. And the broad Peace region, of course, Surerus is in there. If you include us, the Surerus business itself, which I won't include, but we're talking in excess of $50 million locally spent. And if we add in local Indigenous, we're in the $80 million range. So that's a lot of money spent on our local communities, and that money then of course pays for property taxes and keeps our schools going and all the stuff that comes with with money being generated and patriated to our towns. So procurement's one, but it has winners and losers. People bid on work, some people get it, some people don't, and that's the nature of contracting. If we got all the work we wanted, we'd be pretty happy, and we're unhappy lots ourselves. So we understand that there's not everyone gets the work that they would like to get. Hiring, now Leah's just indicated we have about 14% of our workforce has a home in Chetwynd right now. So we hire people from all over the country, but we're hiring people ongoing. We have about 140 people on our project right now, saying 16 or 17 people are Chetwynd residents, and that will grow as we start hiring for the new year. But that's part of why we have HR right on site, to make sure that we are getting people, and the priority hiring comes from that. So, and there is priority hiring in our business. So this is part of what we do. And so again, Chetwynd is one community in the Peace region, and we have numbers that multiply on that. Accommodation, I spoke a bit about those camps. Workforce accommodation, we're calling that. Camp isn't the word that's being promoted anymore, so workforce accommodation. And setting up an environment that's healthy for our workers is really key. And we've put a lot of effort into making sure that the experience people have there is positive. And setting up a respectful environment, a safe environment, is of great importance to any contractor. But certainly, you think of the options: going to camp in Northeast BC or going to work in Edmonton, right? We have to attract people here, so we have to provide great accommodations and an experience in the food and all the things that will make a home away from home. And some folks from Chetwynd will be up in camp. They're not going to get to stay at home. So again, it doesn't take many kilometers to push you out of your house when you're working in our sector. And of course, if anyone's got a rental apartment, you've probably had a pipeliner in the last few years of some sort. So we have people in the hotels and people renting houses and renting apartments. And that's going to continue through the whole duration of the project. And I'm just talking about SMJV. When you add on our people, and then we add on external contractors that we would have on and off, and then you think of TC Energy and their inspection and their project management, you're probably adding another 25% to any number I have. You're adding 25% more on people. So it's a huge amount of folks that are going to be up here. And again, the services. So this is where, we have ongoing service relationships with lots of community-based businesses. And then, our people are using the local services as well. So I'd suggest there's a great, there's a lot of money spent in this community of Chetwynd and in all the Peace region as we develop and deliver our work. So, and again, it creates some challenges when we have hundreds and hundreds of people and we overflow a community. That's never easy. And that's always something that's a challenge, particularly when in the resource-focused communities as we move farther south. They're not used to the influx of people that are project-based, and they're not used to people that are working with their hands, right? And you can see that in the media as our projects go farther south. Many communities are having challenges understanding or reconciling what it means for a pipeline contractor to come into their community. We're not Vikings, right? So where we've been, the other bit on this is that we've had, who attended any of the economic summits that CGL put on last year and the year prior? Yeah, Sarah and Heather, I did. There's been a lot of effort from TC Energy to actually provide knowledge on how to work with the contractors, how to work with CGL. And they've done that throughout the whole alignment, like dozens and dozens of these interactions where we were part of them for the entire day. I think, Alan, you were at every single one of them, right? And they were all over northern BC. And we met with hundreds and hundreds of contractors and service providers and people looking for opportunity. Not everything aligned with what we could deliver on, but it created a really good foundation for us knowing when we're stepping into the project what's available. Now we're in a different position in that we already work up here, right? We're already from the region, so we had good relationships. We know how the community's what the DNA of the community's like. We've been pretty busy up here, and Chetwynd in particular has been a big beneficiary of the corporate giving that we have, and then the employee fundraising. So, 2018 we had Noof on the Roof. Did anyone remember that? We had a guy up there for a week that we tried to not let him go up there on minus 20 whatever. And he raised $25,000 in a week that all stayed here right in town. And that one guy raised $40,000. There you go. There. So, that's and this is my take on it, is we're being from a small town in Fort St. John, we understand what being part of a community means. And so we've tried to take that where we work. And being part of community is understanding the community and then participating. And I think our business has done a really good job of participating wherever we work, whether it was Mackenzie a few years ago, Squamish. We build things, we leave a legacy. We don't leave a building, but we leave a BMX track. We leave bikes. Those are the kind of things that we can do ourselves. And this is not a big list. This is a part of a list that was only for last year. And if you start to layer in since 2017, this would be 50 or 60 entities that received some money from us. And a lot of it came for our employees. This isn't all email Sean and cut a check. Some of that is. But most of this comes from our workers doing 50-50 draws, doing raffles, doing some fundraising. And that's pretty cool because we match a lot of this money, but that's not our money. We get the benefit, but if you knew how many people put money back into the community, I think you'd be very impressed with it. And just recently, I think we gave Little Prairie Playground replacement. This is kind of interesting because our superintendent went there with he had a budget to provide, and then he tripled it and let us know. And then of course it's a playground. So how many playgrounds are there around town? So then we've got 2 more requests the next week for similar. So now we're working on how do we give that same money a couple times in the community to help your playground. So these are some of the things that happen, and when you're connected, we can do that. You probably didn't see us playing I played baseball here last summer. We rented the field every Monday night and I think we had 4 torn Achilles over that time. But we have fun, and they have fun here, and when you have fun and when you have a connection, you're able to, it's easier to rally and support, the community, and the community of Chetwynd supported us, and I will share that. And I think that's the end. I mean, we're part of the DNA of the North Peace. In the Peace region, in the South Peace, we've been here a long time. Our family's here, and we want to say thank you for hosting us here in Chetwynd for the last 4 years and part of the last 50. So that's my share with you today, and I'm happy to answer some questions. But we have a great opportunity to work here and utilize the folks from Chetwynd and partner effectively and professionally. So thank you very much. Anyone? Hi.
Will you be hosting another job fair anytime soon?
Leah.
We have, we're going to McLeod Lake on early March, we're going to McLeod Lake. In Chetwynd specifically, I would assume that we'll be hosting around May, as that's when our ramp up after spring breakup. We'll be doing ramp up, and we'll definitely host another one at that time. Right now, we're going to stay pretty flat with our numbers. Winter brings a lot of challenges to bring the work, so the employment opportunities aren't as great currently, but we're always accepting resumes, and we can have a chat. Great. You're welcome.
Do you think that will plug into this? I see a giant.
One question, Ron, when we talk about safety, do you have a number on that, on your, just from Port St. John or that way to now here in Chetwynd? What kind of numbers do you have, let's say last year, 2019?
Like safety ratios,
Safety,
you mean?
yes.
Yeah. So on Coastal GasLink, we have it's called a total recordable incident frequency, and it's 0.63.
Is that included contractors?
Oh yeah, no, everyone's included. So we have, we have a very strong health and safety program. That's what helps us get the work. And when we look at comparing how we're performing at the very high level. And so you look at incidents, they're recordable, whether it's a cut finger or a broken leg, they're the same when you record them. But the severity of our incidents are not of that nature. Now, it doesn't mean that can't happen. So we're doing our best to make sure that we have all the appropriate engineering measures, journey management, PPE, leadership, all those things that happen. The reason we have the workforce combination of the camps is to ensure that people are working close to they're staying where they work. And the Sekunka Road is a challenging road, so we are certainly trying our best to keep people off. We had a call on it today. More buses is the ask, and lower our exposure on our roads. So our business, we drove about 9 million kilometers last year, just about 2 million man hours. So that's a lot of people and a lot of hours and a lot of exposure with really good results.
Yeah, we just finished the project here in the last year. We're over 1 million man hours with no lost time incidents. We've one medical aid so far on this job, which is a cut hand. Unfortunately, the guy wasn't wearing the correct PPE, and he had an unfortunate incident. Back to work following day. But other than that, we spend 20-30 minutes every morning. First job the guys do is have their tailgates with their supervisors. We run through all the information that's been passed on from the client, from ourselves, go through the tasks that are at hand, make sure they're planned out, make sure they have all the correct gear, whether that be TT or engineered solutions to do it safely. And you'll see it there, and we have our monthly meetings where we bring everyone in, and the messages, the guys are always reinforced to own their work and to stand down, and if they're not happy, we have plenty of supervision. Twice as many as we planned originally, but these guys there to make sure that we're doing this job right. And it's a demand from our company, first and foremost, and it's from the client as well. But they're pretty much on our case as well. And we've had a lot of, even in the last just under a year, we've had pretty much weekly audits from the OGC, and we're very proud to say the team that's out there, we have had no issues. in nearly a year, and you know, we can say that very, very proudly, because it's, I think there was the current issue was there was one cup with a little bit of coffee found in a sea can out in the project, and these guys, they go through everything we do, they go through all our paperwork, they go through our dumpsters, make sure there's no animal attractants and all that. So, you know, that's the message we gave the guys this morning. I'm very proud there that if all these guys can find is one coffee cup, you know, that's really high standard the guys are working out there. So, it is, you know, touch wood, I always say that, but it's, hopefully we keep that standard up, and if everyone keeps focused, we will. But it is the biggest thing, we spend a lot of time and effort and money making sure that the guys are out in the job have the confidence to speak up for their safety, and if they have any questions, we stop and we go through it.
Sean, ready, or does he have an answer for one more?
Oh yeah, for sure. As the tech guy, all of a sudden.
Yeah. Procurement and stuff that we talk about funds. I would talk about legacy and what Surerus Murphy puts forward, because I know you're not going to be here in 2022. You'll have some play parts, but what I'm talking about is to 2030, 2034, 2036, you know, in the future. And when the pipeline goes through, it goes through only for 4 or 5 years, and that's where the target is for that amount of years, right? And when we get touched with a few things, that's fine. I mean, it does look reasonable today, but when we get to the 2030, Surerus Murphy put a pipeline through, and that was coastal gas link, and all we got was pipe and a few playgrounds as given to hockey tournaments and all that, but yet we still feel the effect of not having anything. But you had our attention for 2022, right? So we're still, maybe we need to talk, maybe we need to have some dialogue about something that has a prolonged legacy fund, right? So that goes to just about every industry. So, and you're one of them. You're one of them. So we will probably be sending letters and stuff like that from Chetwynd, right? So we really appreciate that you do come here and give us some funds, because as you said, Sean, the taxes and whatever is spent here, we appreciate that. But when we're gone, and you know, when I talk about leaders like mayor, council, you know, there has to be something said that we need some legacy and something that is here forever, right? I said that's forever is a long time, so, but you know what I mean? It can't just stop at 2022. I mean, we should be able to do something like that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of news, some particular inquiries, send them all, of course,
We will do that.
to CGL as well. They're more than happy to deal with those. If it's specific ones.
Yes.
And from the point of view of contracting, I think that when I looked around, there wasn't many hands that had been to the summits. It was 3 months of summits at the start of this project, all over the place. There wasn't one here. I didn't know that back in the day. We're down at the car wash office at the moment, and we will have an office in Chetwynd for the duration of the project. Fairly sizable setup here. So we will keep most of the, as the work progresses, pipelines are linear and our crews travel the entire length of it and they'll move, but we will be keeping a main office in and around Chetwynd. So there will be the ability to communicate. Leah is our local and indigenous coordinator, and she's down in that office all the time. I'm around here with 70% of the time, but if there is interest of contracting that we haven't, we've pretty much tripled our procurement requirements on this job because of the commitments that TC Energy and we've made. I mean, instead of 3 and 4 contractors, the last subcontract package that went out went to 38 contractors. If you're not on that, or you don't feel that you're on the list, we have a list, and there's 2,000 contractors on that list from all the summits, everyone we met. If you didn't meet us and you're on that list, you know, you need to see Leah, and she'll run through the requirements and the opportunities that are there. So I think we've been fairly diligent in making sure that local companies and businesses are getting as much as we can, because you know, we really appreciate it. I've been here for pretty much a year now, on and off, and you know, we do appreciate the hospitality we're showing here. There are commitments made that we don't adversely affect the community, and if there's, I think we try to be good neighbours. So from Surerus 5 years ago, and Surerus Murphy for the last 3 and 4. If there are issues, we'd like to hear about them. If there are opportunities you want to explore, Leah is your person. And you know, if there is some feedback, she is here directly all the time. We'd like to hear about it, because we do appreciate the hospitality. And we are aware of, we're a pretty big beast that come into town. And
no, absolutely. And if I could sort of add on to a little bit of the legacy piece as we work to get the video going. And sorry, hi, I'll introduce myself. My name is Heather Xarmia, and I'm a TC Energy and a public affairs coordinator for the Coastal GasLink Pipeline project. I work and live here in the Peace region with my fiance and our dog up in Fort St. John. So very much familiar with the area over the past 7 years. And maybe actually here I'll just project my voice a little bit. So twofold, I'd like to touch on the legacy piece, sort of to help answer your question there. But lovely to meet everybody here today, and would love to get a chance to further connect with those that I haven't had the opportunity to connect with directly yet. Many of you I have. Sean touched on a really good point, and I loved that sort of key piece, which is raising the bar. And that is exactly what you know, TC Energy, formerly TransCanada, is looking here to do with the Coastal GasLink Pipeline project, in conjunction with several of our partners. That's including communities and our prime contractors and several other subcontractors across the whole pipeline route itself. I mean, we've been working on this project since 2012. That's 6 years prior, before we even received our financial investment decision, essentially that green light to go ahead and start building. So what that means is that behind the scenes, you know, when you think about raising that bar and creating that extraordinary legacy, we're looking to leave that footprint. And, you know, if you look at it, we've got 7,500 pages worth of environmental assessments and research done through the Environmental Assessment Office alone. Unprecedented is that we've got 20 signed agreements with First Nations along the pipeline route, which is a first, I think, for our industry here in BC. And a big part of that too is touching on the legacy. You know, we couldn't have done this without the support of community members, just like yourselves, chambers, small businesses. You know, we're neighbors here in your region as well. You know, we can't do it without the support of local governments and our provincial, federal governments as well, and including local landowners. I mean, integral to what we're doing. And I'd like to just touch on that brief legacy piece here, because we understand that it's more than just here's your check as we bump ourselves out the door, you know, heading on to what's next on the horizon. We get it, that it's more than just you know, leaving those physical present pieces behind. And so what we look to do, and you know, working together with our prime contractors here as well, we've developed several partnerships with local colleges across the pipeline route. So here in our backyard, we'd have Northern Lights College, and we're talking about Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, and Chetwynd. And we've got a significant effort put in towards local skills training and education. So for us, being able to offer those sort of, I'm gonna say, opportunities and services to those to be able to increase their skill set, maybe enhance what they've got going on, or if they're looking for a career change. But it's through those programs that, you know, we can happily, you know, move forward onto other regions for upcoming work in the future. You know, when you're talking about 2030, 2040, it's Okay, you've got your BMX bikes and the parks, but you know what? We've also equipped X amount of new people with this sort of skill set that they'll be able to carry forward for generations, well, years and possible future generations to come as well.
In a town where bitter winters reign and the threat of cabin fever lurks in the shadows, one hero stands to abolish boredom and bring an entire region together. Armed with the powers of fun and community, they stand vigil every winter. CHET TV Bingo! The hero we didn't know we needed, but always wanted. Every Thursday at 7 p.m. Only on CHET TV.
We are at the Chetwynd Rec Center and we are at the Health Blitz, the 2019 Health Blitz. It's the 9th year that it's been running in Chetwynd. And basically what it is, it's an early learning screening event so that parents of children aged 0 to 6 can connect with community professionals to participate in health screening, as well as they can get information about the local schools, paramedics, RCMP, fire department, any community resources that they want to have information about. We'd like to thank the Chetwynd Society for Community Living. They've been our 5-year sponsor, and without them we wouldn't have been able to have the Health Blitz this year.
So we started the Place at the Table Christmas concert. My husband Bill Studley and I wrote the song A Place at the Table, and it's been our theme song for the last 20 years. We've been raising the money for their Christmas food hampers for the full 20 years.
The impact of giving has really changed my life with, helping with that.
What we got here is we got one of the 6 thrones that HBO has out. There's 6 in the world. This is the 5th one. 5 have been found. The 6th one hasn't been actually, they haven't gave up any clues for it yet. That'll be happening sometime this week. They picked Tumbler Ridge because this is the throne of the ice, and they were looking for an ice background. So we sent them in some photos of ice backgrounds, and they picked one here on Babcock Creek. They call it Babcock Seeps. We had the throne in there for 9 days, and then with all the warm weather, the creek started to let go, and we had to move the throne. So yesterday morning, we walked in there with a big net, and heli lifted it out of there and brought it to here. So it's been here ever since, and it was found yesterday morning. Turnout's been non-stop all day. There's been people visiting the throne since 6 o'clock this morning, and it went yesterday right after it was found right till 10:48 last night. So it's been non-stop all day. This is the first lull of the day. The throne will be here till at least Sunday, and mostly it's good to come for pictures during the daylight. It's getting dark right now, so it'd be best if everybody tries to make it during the day so that, well, best picture time, warmer weather, etc.
So they slapped on the cuffs, and jail time was their bluff. I walked away with a $500 fine, 'cause it was only 2 grammars, not enough dope for the slammer. So I kept on cruising down the line. Sault Ste. Marie, look what you've done to me. Such a shame that we had to meet this way. And I guess I learned my lesson. I suppose I'll count my blessings, but it's safe to say I won't be back again. And when I left the border, my fuse was getting shorter. I went back to the Canadian side of town, hoping things would get better, but the streets were getting wetter, and the Sioux kept on dragging me down. And on Wellington and Bruce, that's where all hell broke.